Okay, we made it. All right, well, it's the top of the hour, everyone, and I want to thank you all for being here for our annual Excellence in Community Engagement Awards and today's conversation on public sector storytelling from data to impact. Hopefully everybody can see my slides up. I got them. Before we get started, a little housekeeping. If you'll see, hopefully our Q&A feature is on. All these screens in my way. So feel free to comment in them and share. We're going to reserve some time to discuss. And for those of you interested in receiving a recording of the webinar, keep your eye out on your inbox because we'll be shipping that to your email within the next 24 hours. Did you just say you got your coughing fit out of the way? Yeah, I'm starting to cough. Sorry about that, guys. My name is Trisha Thomas, and I work with the marketing team here at Public Input. But in my previous life, I worked as a community engagement practitioner for local and regional governments. I'm joined today with my lovely colleague, Nina Pignatello, who is the Director of Customer Experience, which I think is a pretty cool job. And then also, we're excited to have Ms. Lori Croy with us, who's bringing some incredible insight about the art of public sector storytelling. So I have a little bio here. So Lori Croy is the Director of Communications at the Missouri Department of Commerce and Insurance, and she brings more than 25 years of experience spanning government, higher ed, and consulting. Throughout her career, she's helped public institutions translate complex, often high stakes work into clear human stories that people can actually understand. Lori's an accredited public relations professional, an author, and a national leader with the PR Society of America. And this I love about you in your bio. She's someone who firmly believes that empathy and a well-timed sense of humor are essential tools in public communication. Lori, thank you for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Oh, I missed the pictures. That's what happens when you're doing intros and slides at the same time. But here's the pictures. And for our agenda, so we're going to start off with Lori talking about storytelling. We'll pause a minute for Q&A. And then Nina will be sharing about our Excellent in Community Engagement Award winners. That'll include a little sneak peek at the case studies. And that will wrap us up for the day. So before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of our customers joining us today and a warm welcome for everyone who's new and spending time with us for the first time. Whether you've been with us for years or you're just getting to know us, we hope today's stories give you a sense of what's possible when engagement is thoughtful, inclusive, and grounded in real community needs. So I say this every time I do this, Lori. So we view ourselves as more than just a tech platform. We aim to be a true partner in helping everyone reach people and make participation more meaningful. So with that, we'll dive into the session. And I'll stop sharing so you can, Lori, because I know you got some slides.
All right, we'll make sure it works. All right. Hopefully everybody can see what I see. Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. First of all, I just want to say thank you for joining today. As somebody who works for government, we know how valuable your time is, how much work you have to do, and taking a little bit of time out to invest in yourself, to learn, to network, and to celebrate other people who are in your sphere is really important. So thank you for joining us today. So I want to talk a little bit about magic today. My job is to help you understand a little bit more how to convey information. So I took this seriously, and so this PowerPoint is to give you a little bit of a sense of how we convey this information to the people that we need to talk to. So we often think of data as the dry part of our jobs, right? It's the spreadsheets, it's the tables, it's the dense lists of information that we get. But today I want to talk about something else entirely. I want to talk about the magic that's in the data. So we're going to explore how we, as public servants and communicators, can find the soul and the story and the magic behind those spreadsheets and use this as a way to protect and inform the citizens that we serve. All right, let's see if this works. Here's the hard part, is getting the slides to go. There we go. All right, so I once heard a story, it was a quote from Walt Disney, another quote, a different quote, that it's not the loudest person in the room that people will remember. It's the storyteller. It's the storyteller. So Walt has been my inspiration for how to weave together something to talk about data storytelling today. So I'm going to start with this thought from Walt Disney, that laughter is timeless, imagination has no age, and dreams are forever. Okay, so you're asking yourself now, is this lady crazy? Why are we looking at Walt Disney and talking about a serious topic like data and citizen engagement? And you might ask, what do dreams and imagination have to do with data? And the answer is everything, absolutely everything. Because to analyze data effectively, you have to imagine the human lives that produced those numbers. And you have to see the patterns of human behavior where others see only noise. And that's part of your job. So Walt Disney once said that he would rather entertain and hope people learned than to educate and hope they were entertained. So in the public sector, we frequently do the opposite. We dump a 50-page PDF of data on a public website and wonder why people aren't educated and informed. If we don't engage them first, our most accurate data is invisible. It's unused, it's untouched. So to reach the public, we have to flip the script and we have to make the data a story that they want to read. So we see a lot of this in our work. Generic spreadsheets of data, most of us generate those, or most of us start with those in our work every day. As communicators, we're handed this kind of information regularly, and we have to work really hard to find the relevant factor in a spreadsheet that looks like this that can become the hook for our data story. But in this state, it's difficult for a layperson and often a communicator to be able to make heads or tails about what's really important, what's noteworthy, what's worth time and attention, and what's the point. What's the point? There's a lot of information here. So how do we break through a wall of data like this and find the magic that means something? Okay, I'm about to blow your mind here. By the way, I forgot to ask or invite. I want you all to feel like you can make comments in the chat. You can use the reactions. I don't want to feel like I'm alone talking to this big screen in my office. I would love to know that you're there. So please be very active, talk to each other, throw tomatoes, whatever it is that you need to do to be a part of this. All right. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this before. But did you know that Florence Nightingale is known as the mother of infographics? Anybody know that? If you did, I need to hear about you. Okay, because I thought that was just one of the coolest fun facts I'd ever heard. So this slide is perhaps one of the early examples of moving data from a written report to a relatable form of visual storytelling. So Florence Nightingale used this to show that preventable diseases, not just battle, caused more soldiers' deaths during the Crimean War. It showed a really dramatic story about how sanitation, not just combat, was critical to a soldier's survival, and it led to public policy changes and major healthcare reforms. So let's talk a little bit about this. So this is visual storytelling. It transformed things like what we saw on the screen before, complex mortality statistics, into something in her day and time that was an easily understandable picture, showing policymakers and the public the true scale of preventable deaths. She used a circular structure. She divided it into 12 sections of the months of the year, and each of those wedges was radiating outward to indicate numbers of deaths for that month and cause. So there's a visual correspondence. She used color coding. We still use that today. Blue for disease, red for wounds, highlighting specific causes of mortality and making the patterns really obvious. Area scaling. Unlike a standard pie chart, the area of each wedge, not just its angle, represented the death count. She used a square root scale to accurately show the magnitude and to prevent distortion. So honesty in the art. So it had an impact. This is the whole point. The data needs to have an impact. It showed that sanitation, not just combat, was key to soldiers' survival, led to major healthcare reforms, solidified her role as a founder of modern nursing and statistical data in the practice of that nursing. And it provided undeniable visual evidence that improved hygiene drastically reduced deaths. So it combined time, cause, magnitude into one impactful graphic, and its influence has had an influence on modern infographic design to this day. So yay, Florence. Okay. So beyond being a children's book author, I also am a food blogger. And so I use a lot of analogies that either have to do with children's books or food. And so this slide does everything for me, right? So I want you to think about transitioning data from a report to a story. How do we do that? I need you to think about it like a meal. Data is the raw ingredients. It's the flour, it's the eggs, it's the salt. By themselves, not very appetizing, right? But the story is the finished dish. It's warm, it's inviting, it's satisfying, it's digestible, and it's memorable. So our goal as the storytellers isn't to change the ingredients, which I think a lot of the data analysts that we work with are terrified we're going to do. We're going to touch their data and we're going to somehow change it. We're not changing the ingredients. We're just preparing them in a way that it makes them accessible and relevant. So when a stakeholder sees some sort of a chart or an infographic, they shouldn't see mortality analysis. They should see an answer to a problem. Why are we losing so many soldiers off the battlefield when it's preventable? That's an impact story. So in every great Disney movie, there's a hero. The hero is never us. I'm going to repeat that so you can repeat it to the people you work with. The hero is never us. It's not about us. It's never the department. It's never the organization. It's really never the elected official, but that may be a harder fact to deliver for some of you. As Walt said, You don't build it for yourself, you build it for them. You build it for them. So if we aren't centering the citizen in our data visualization, we're just talking to ourselves. We need to serve three main heroes, and each one needs its own story, a different story. Consumers need a story about protection and trust. Policymakers need evidence-based stories. They need the why behind the law. Businesses need a story of stability, predictability, economics. If you try to tell one story to all three, you're likely to reach none of them. So tailoring a message, being specific, thinking about your audience is critical. Any of you ever used something called an empathy map? Are you familiar with the term? I'm pretending I can hear you talking to me, so speak up in the chat. We find our stories sometimes by using empathy mapping. And I think a lot of people ignore the importance and the value of empathy in their communication strategy. This isn't just a feeling for people. It's a strategic tool. We ask questions like, what are they afraid of? What keeps them up at night? If a consumer is worried about their home insurance after a storm, a chart about industry-wide loss ratios isn't going to help them. But a graphic showing average claim turnaround times with an 800 number where they can call for help speaks directly to their pain point. So we refine our data to meet their emotional reality. All right. Complexity is the enemy of action. Somehow the word simple has become evil in our circles, and I don't understand why. Had this conversation with a research team that I'm working with this past week, and I said that we have become so accustomed to justifying our existence to others by showing the expanse of our abilities and skill sets in what we do, that we over design, we make too complex the information that we're delivering for people. Simple is actually harder to do, making it clear. So in a world of information overload, your most powerful tool is the delete key. We simplify our visuals to amplify the truth. Delete, delete, delete. Okay. So I want you to look at this chart. And I still see people doing charts like this. Every color of the rainbow, just because you have it doesn't mean you use it.
I feel
The
attacked.
first thing, what's that?
I feel attacked right now. Just kidding.
Okay, so Trisha, this is for you. Pay attention. Pay attention. I've got you all the way to the end here. The first thing we're going to do is declutter. So this is an example of decluttering that same group of information. Distribution by a customer segment, that sort of thing. But now nobody knows what to do with that. What's relevant? What should we pay attention to? But if you focus, you provide some context, higher proportion of customers who buy seeds and so forth. Here's the information you really want people to look at. This is how decluttering and focusing what you're doing can help someone who is the user of this visual information to get what's the hook, what's the point of your story. All right. So I'm working on a project right now. It's flood research. What do people in areas that have flooding understand about their risk and about flood insurance. And so the hard part of this is that we often send people to resources to help them understand their risk. Like a common resource like this, it's the FEMA flood map. Do you see anything challenging in this? You plug in an address, you get this. Do you know what this means? Is it clear to you what you should pay attention to? Do you have any idea where you are? This is something that is served up to the general public to help them assess their flood risk where they live. So I'm just going to give you something else that's an example in comparison. So this is breaking it down a little more clearly. Here's where you are. There's a minimal chance of flooding this year in that area. You know, this is the percentage of likelihood. You can choose the number of years that you want to look at, potential damage caused by a flooding event. So it's clarifying the risk, focusing on the key points. Again, we're not where I want to be with any of this, but it's giving you the difference between providing data in a way that is completely out of reach for most people to understand and giving just a little bit of clarifying information to try to get a point across. So the point of all that is that data without structure is just a pile of numbers.
Hey, Lori, we got a little question back
Yes.
to your simplified view.
Uh-huh.
Victoria asked, but what if others in your office push back on the simplified view? It's like a constant battle between giving them a clear story with the data and others who want the visual representation of all the data possible.
So here's an interesting thing. This is why I do research, because I provide data, consumer data that says what you want and what they need don't match. So look for that type of research and use it to support your arguments. I think one of the quickest and easiest things is to do an informal focus group with people in your target audience and give them some examples and let them choose what they understand and what they don't. And let the people who argue with you watch. Let them watch. It's very disappointing when they see evidence that more is not always better. It's not that you want to keep the data from them. It's that it's got to be given in digestible pieces. It's got to be given in pieces that they can understand and retain, or you haven't done your job. So anyway, data without structure is just a pile of numbers. A plot gives those numbers a direction to go. Every child is born with a vivid imagination. As storytellers, we just give that imagination a path to follow. So let's look at how we structure a path. So let's look at a 3-act structure. In 3 acts, we address context, conflict, and resolution. We need to move the story through those kinds of steps. So we're going to move from descriptive statistics to prescriptive insights, and that involves evolving from simply understanding what happened, which is past data, to determining what should we do about it, which is the future action. And we use that, we use optimization and simulation to do that. So here's an example. Again, using a project that I worked on for some of these examples. So we had an issue with post-storm damage in the state of Missouri. We were seeing that areas that were heavily impacted, we weren't getting a lot of engagement and phone calls from people that we knew needed help. So We looked at the survey, the data results, tracking the phone calls from what area. Rural engagement decreased by 10%. So what will happen? What will happen? Decreased engagement might indicate that the communications tactics that we're using might not be the right ones for that particular audience segment. Maybe the rural audience isn't using the same channels. Maybe they're not on social media to that extent. Maybe broadband isn't as available in the areas that they live. Maybe the stations that we're playing messaging on are not the ones most listened to by the folks who live there. So looking at those kinds of things. And then the prescriptive is the what should we do about it? We increased the spend in publications targeted to rural interests. So we chose the rural electric cooperative magazines and started running monthly ads in that. And we resolved this issue completely, changing the one tactic. So this is, again, part of the what versus the so what. It's how you take that nugget of data and you move it through to the descriptive, predictive, the prescriptive steps, and be able to understand how you might be able to address correcting that need. So we talked a little bit about this when we were looking at our friend Florence's infographic, but here's something that's a little more modern for you to consider. Color and contrast, where we move our eyes, is really important. Not only as the storytellers in text, but the storytellers in the visuals. We have to work collaboratively with each other. Each of us have our own jobs to do. So if you look at a color and contrast example, you can see how much more quickly you can define where the eye should be drawn in that second example, that after example, just because of the way the contrast has been used. And you can do the same with the visual hierarchy, giving people a clear understanding of what the colors that you've used mean. Be careful here because, again, you can't have all of your messaging all in one basket, especially those of us who are in the public sector. We have to be very aware of accessibility. So when you're using visuals, be very careful that you are covering all your bases, making sure that the color contrast is appropriate, and make sure that sometimes you may have to provide information in an alternative means to be able to get that message out to all the people that you need to deliver it to. Okay. When I talk about animation, I'm not talking about cartoons. I'm sorry. No cartoons today. But I am talking about giving life to static information. I'm talking about taking a dead spreadsheet and making it move the needle on public opinion or policy. And that's part of what we do in the practice of engagement. We animate the impossible. Every story needs the right lead actor. And so in data, your character might be your chart type. A bar chart is great for comparisons. A line chart is perfect for showing a journey over time. A scatter plot might reveal complex relationships. If you pick the wrong character, the audience may get confused. Don't use a line chart to compare two static groups. It's like casting a dramatic actor in a slapstick comedy, and it just doesn't fit. Unless, of course, it's John Lithgow, who I would argue could play anything and be believable. Absolutely anything. Okay. Using pops of color to highlight your eureka moments is another method of providing focus and impact. But you have to, again, be very careful about the use of color because it can both clarify or confuse a message if you don't use it carefully. So it can make it easier for a viewer to understand the data you're trying to communicate, but it can create confusion. You have to understand the story you're hoping to tell with the data visualization and choose the colors that match it and use it wisely. So there are some common issues that arise when you're trying to incorporate color into your visualizations. That includes, Tricia, this is for you, using too many colors, making it difficult for the reader to quickly understand what they're looking at. I used the term earlier, honesty in art, and avoiding the misleading scales and key charts and things like that. So it's important to use familiar colors, but it can be misleading if you use familiar colors in misleading or surprising ways. Using colors with too little contrast. How many of you have seen maps that had all of these colors generated and there is so little contrast, you have to work really hard to see the difference between one color or another on the map? That's very difficult. And again, it doesn't account for viewers who may have color blindness, people who have difficulty being able to digest that kind of information. So I'm gonna quickly use this example as, let's just say this is a US map chart that shows a virus infection rate from state to state. Colors representing different concentrations of positive cases. So typically map charts leverage different shades within the same color family. The lighter the shade, the fewer the cases in that state. The darker the shade, the more cases there are. But if you go against that assumption and you start using a darker color to indicate fewer cases, it sometimes confuses the viewer because they become so accustomed to information being delivered in the opposite way. So this is the part that's critical. Storytelling is not about deception. In our world, art must always serve truth. So misleading scales or truncated y-axis might be telling a better story, it might be a more interesting story, but it destroys credibility. If the public stops trusting the visual, they will stop trusting you. So our magic comes from the truth, not from the tricks. Okay. Every story must have an ending. And in the public sector, that ending should be an action. So look at this trend. It's moving toward success, but how do we get there? We end with a next step. When you're delivering information, tell a brief story. This is earthquake data. I was also involved in earthquake insurance research. It's really exciting here in Missouri. We'll have to chat more about all of the perils here. But as a result of this 4-year project, we were able to give indication of top predictors of earthquake insurance uptake. We had a problem with that falling. And so here were the things that we found. And so clearly defining, using agents to help make insurance decisions, talking to friends and family, giving people confidence in having sufficient information about earthquakes, and as cost increases, uptake decreases. So it's the happily ever after. It's the key points from the data. It's what is going to tell your story and the steps that you need to take as a storyteller to be able to help resolve the issues and to create a safer, more informed public, for instance. So here are the steps. We need to work with insurance agents so that they have more information, so that when people call them, they're able to help them more readily. People in this instance thought that earthquake insurance was already a part of their homeowner's insurance, and it is not. So there's some obvious nuggets that came from this that we were able to share and to be able to follow up on. This
Lori,
is important. Yes.
Lori, the people in California want to know, what do you mean earthquakes in Missouri?
So Missouri is the third largest earthquake insurance market in the United States. We sit on the New Madrid seismic zone, and that is the one that in 1811 and 1812, when it had a major earthquake, caused the Mississippi River to run backwards and change course. If we have another event like that today, it would be the size of about 12 Hurricane Katrinas at one time. It would be the costliest disaster in the US to date. That's what's anticipated. So, you didn't know it was so interesting living in Missouri, did you? It's crazy here. Yeah. So anyway, but yes, California friends, reach out. We have lots of earthquake things in common. So I want to remind you, celebrate the wins. Continue to collect the data that follows the steps you took to identify the magic and revisit it as an epilogue. Keep revisiting the data. Make sure that the stories that you're telling, that you're assessing if they've had impact, and keep reassessing as you go. Are you measuring the success? Are you reporting that success? And are you continuing to look for more magic in the data? And I am a strong believer in one story is never enough. You should always have multiple volumes of stories. So, you know, that's the way it should be. So I'm going to leave you with one last Disney thought. It's kind of fun to do the impossible. And turning massive data sets into engaging public stories can feel impossible, but it's exactly what we are called to do. And we restore order with imagination. We instill hope with clarity. And thank you for the work you do every day to make that magic happen. And may your data always be inspiring. So thank you so much. And I don't know if we have time for any more questions, but I know you're getting really eager to move toward the real magic, and that's the awards.
I love that. I've been pulling the questions out of the chat as fast as I could. I'm not seeing any in the Q&A, but I had to dig my button out. So I don't know if others are not seeing the Q&A button, but I had to dig it out with the three dots. If you guys have questions, would love to pose them to Lori, and I'm gonna put her contact information up so that you can see that. I also put the PR Society of America website there for you all, just in case you want to get involved there. I know Lori's very involved with that as well.
We do have an upcoming PRSA Public Affairs and Government Section Summit in June. And it's a lot of people like us getting together, talking shop, sharing information, like the kind of thing that we just talked about now. So would absolutely love to have any of you join us. Let's see, how do you approach data when the story isn't clear? So yes, Jenny, it's in Cincinnati. Thank you. You're correct. When the data isn't clear, I think you need to act like a reporter. You sit down with that data analyst and you ask questions. I do this all the time. I don't understand. I don't understand. It's not clear to me. And I work with them to the point that I can understand. And that's our job. We're really the translators. Most of the information around me is really above my head, but my job is to act as the translator. There you go. You can do it. You are a reporter. Way to go, Pamela. That's exactly what you have to do. You just keep asking questions and asking questions until they start speaking in a language that you can understand, you can distill, and then you can convey in simple language or in visuals that have a little magic attached.
Another one, is this a question or comment? Empathy mapping is a new concept to me. I took a screenshot. Yes. Oh, she was wondering if you could expand on the visual and tell us how to use that in our practice. Bring it
So
back up.
you can use empathy mapping in a lot of different ways. I love to do things that are think of it in terms of a map that you use with a focus group, and you start exploring those various areas that are in that empathy map, and find out how people feel and what their responses are. That's a good way to start. Um, Another thing that you can do is I I don't know how often you do this, but at least in my world, every person that works in my department is not just somebody who works in state government, they're also a consumer. So I will sometimes ask people if they would just be part of a work group for me, and I'm going to ask you questions and I need you to answer it like a normal person, not a work person, and tell me what you think. And that's a good place to start, to just start gathering some information and to practice. But that's a good way for you to start using empathy mapping.
Lori, earlier somebody asked if you'd be willing to share your slides. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
I'm happy to send a PDF of those to you, Tricia, and you can share
Okay.
them out when you do your post
Yeah.
webinar communication.
Okay. Well, yeah, then we'll send that out with the recording, folks, and you should see that in your email. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we'll move forward to the best time of the year when we celebrate our customers and the Excellence and Community Engagement Awards. I just wanted to give you guys a little sneak peek of the categories. So these are the categories, and this was the first year that we had some ties. So that was really exciting for us to experience. And I'll say there were over 150 government agencies who engaged more than 91 million residents across the US and Canada. So it's no exaggeration that when we say these winners are really setting the bar for excellence in communication or community engagement, I'm in the communication brain right now, but setting the bar for community engagement, they really are. And I have to add, I didn't put this in the slide, but when we did this around this time last year, the number was 80 million. So you guys have been really busy. So I am going to let Nina take the reins here and I'll handle the slides for you, but she's going to announce our winners.
All right. Thank you, Tricia.
Yeah.
And thank you, Lori, for such a wonderful overview and just talk about the uh, communication strategies and telling a story. I love Walt Disney. That was really cool. And just think, Walt um, did it all without AI. Right? All his imagination and all his talent and hard work. So thank you. At Public Input, we really believe community engagement is about more than collecting feedback. It's about showing up, listening well, building real relationships with the people that we serve. And every day, our customers do this hard work, often invisible work of creating trust, expanding access, and making public decision making more human. Today is my favorite day of the year because we get to pause and celebrate your work out loud in front of your peers. And I get the honors of doing that. So it is really a special day for me. Before I jump in, I just want to say a genuine thank you to everyone who is joining us today, and especially those that are working in public service, where the effort is constant and the recognition is rare. And to all of this year's nominees and finalists, just know that your work really matters, and it's an honor to be a part of this. So, with no more to say about that, let's move on and celebrate some excellence. So, our first award is the Breakthrough Performance Award. And this award honors leaders who turn complexity into clarity, breaking down barriers and improving how engagement actually works in practice. This year's award goes to Nicole Hutchinson with Hillsborough County, Florida. Yay, Nicole. Nicole took on, I know I can hear the clapping virtually there. Nicole took on one of the most complex and high stakes challenges imaginable, disaster recovery. She transformed what could have been an overwhelming process into a streamlined, scalable operation, making it possible to collect trusted community input at an unprecedented scale. Nicole, your ability to lead with clarity under pressure is truly exceptional. Congratulations on this well-earned recognition. And I just personally, it was such a pleasure to meet with you and Adelie and Terry over coffee in Tampa last fall. So super happy that this came out this way. All right, lots of celebrating in the chat. All right, should we move on, Trisha? All right. The next award is our Champion of Community Trust, which celebrates practitioners who build authentic, lasting relationships with their communities, especially during moments when trust matters the most. This year's category was incredibly competitive. We had a lot of nominees, and we're honored to recognize two individual winners, each for their unique contributions. First, Angelica Tyler from Buncombe County, North Carolina. There's weather theme here I'm starting to pick up on. Following Tropical Storm Helene, Angelica led an inclusive and transparent recovery effort across 6 municipalities, centering resident voices at every step. By turning community input into shared priorities and coordinated actions, she helped guide a recovery plan shaped by the people it serves. Your work strengthened public trust during a very critical moment and showed what it looks like to lead with openness and accountability. Congratulations, Angelica. Yay. Celebrate, clap. Our second champion of trust is the city of Asheville, again in North Carolina. And again, we're weather related. During the post-Hurricane Helene recovery, this team led one of Asheville's most inclusive engagement efforts to date. Through transparent, accessible, and equity-centered participation, they ensured resident input shaped both recovery and policy decisions. In a moment when trust could have easily eroded, their work helped rebuild confidence in both the process and the outcomes. Dawa, Logan, and Christy, thank you for your leadership and care, and congratulations to the Asheville team. Awesome.
Sorry.
You guys are buried in snow too. Again, send some our way into the mountains. All right, very good. Thank you. Let's move on. Champion of Inclusion Award, Engagement Award is our next award. We honor leaders who go beyond intention, creating real, equitable pathways for participation. And this year's award goes to Beverly Sanders from the city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Beverly led a sustained equity-driven engagement effort across Charlotte's historically underinvested corridors, creating accessible, multiple lingual opportunities for residents to shape real investment decisions. Her work ensured that underrepresented voices directly influenced funding, planning, visible neighborhood improvements, turning engagement into tangible change. Beverly, your commitment to inclusive participation is making a lasting difference. Congratulations. All right. Moving along. Next is the Excellence in Data-Driven Engagement Award. George, I think the bar got raised for you a little bit this morning on this too. This award recognizes leaders who use data to tell meaningful stories and guide equitable decision making. How applicable to our podcast or our webinar first half hour. This year's award is George Martinez from VIA Metropolitan Transit in San Antonio, Texas. George turned public input into a mobile, data-driven command center, enabling full neighborhood coverage for proposed bus routes and changes across the region. By capturing real-time household feedback and mapping outreach gaps, he ensured participation was both equitable and comprehensive. George, congratulations, and thank you for showing how data can drive clarity, fairness, and impact. And we hope this award lifts your spirits from what has been a challenging year for you personally. And just know that you make a difference. All right, moving along. Our next award is the Leader of Innovation Award. This award recognizes teams who help shape what's next in public engagement by being curious, collaborative, and willing to try new approaches that make participation easier for everyone. This year's award goes to San Diego County, California, including, this is a long list: Andrew, Elizabeth, Janley, Nancy, Ryan, Sabrina, and Teresa. This team, this is a group of pioneers. This team took a hard look at public meetings and actually feel for residents and staff and set out to find ways to make them better by simplifying hybrid meetings, workflows, and creating more consistent, accessible ways to participate. They helped residents show up with confidence and helped staff spend less time managing the logistics and more time listening. The San Diego County team, your willingness to rethink the basics has helped made engagement more welcoming, more reliable, and easier to sustain. And your learning is now helping practitioners everywhere do the same. Congratulations, and thank you for moving public meetings forward. I would say quantum leap. All right, awesome. All right, moving along, our final award, again, we have a tie, is the Resourceful Innovator Award. We had a lot of nominations for this award as well. This award celebrates those who achieve remarkable engagement outcomes with limited resources. Like I said, a lot of nominees in this group. And this year, we recognize two individuals. The first is Lori Maher from Genesee Transportation Council in New York. And with limited resources and a big regional challenge, Lori brought together voices from across a 9-county region to talk about road safety, creating a space where people could learn from one another, share priorities, and feel part of a shared mission. Through thoughtful planning and a focus on collaboration, she helped turn a complex topic into productive, people-centered conversations and laying the groundwork for safer roads, and stronger regional partnerships. Lori, your ability to bring people together with care and clarity is inspiring. Congratulations on this well-deserved recognition and a very happy milestone birthday. So if everyone could just take a little extra moment and wish Lori a happy birthday. Our second resourceful innovator is Nikki Grimball from Charleston County, South Carolina, one of my favorite places. Nikki reimagined how residents could participate in rezoning conversations, making it easier for people to share input in ways that fit their lives. By meeting residents where they are and bringing their feedback into one clear place, she helped turn what could feel like a confusing process into something more approachable and transparent. The result was a broader participation, clearer insight for staff, and stronger trust with the community. Nikki, your creativity and commitment to accessibility has made a real difference for both residents and your colleagues, and congratulations on this recognition.
I love this.
All right. Yes, well done to all of our award winners today. And so before we wrap up, I just want to say your hard work and dedication, it is not just appreciated, but really setting powerful examples that all of your peers can use for meaningful and inclusive public engagement. We also encourage everyone to explore the wonderful stories behind each of these awardees. There's a QR code at the bottom of the screen you can scan. Their insights, approaches and lessons learned can inspire all of us as we continue to learn from each other. So with that, thank you for the opportunity to present these awards today. And Tricia, I will turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I just have a couple things. I wanted to put Lori's information up again on the screen. Remind you guys, we'll be sending out Lori's slides and a recording of this session within 24 hours so that you can review and share. If you have colleagues that didn't make it, they'll automatically get that message too. So no worries. Also, if you're new, all the newbies out there, if you're interested in learning more about how public input can help improve your community engagement outcomes, use this QR code or go explore our website at publicinput.com to learn more about us. Lori, again, thank you so much for the amazing presentation. I feel like I could have listened for another hour. It was just it was wonderful. And Nina, thanks again for elevating all the good work of our customers. It's just so inspiring to see.
Absolutely.
And thanks everybody for joining us. You got 5 extra minutes of your day back to you.